Welcome to part one of a three-part series of the practical steps you can take when you're applying for a leadership job. Part one includes researching the job, part two is about putting together your CV, and part three is your cover letter. So today I'm going to cover off why it's really important to do the work researching the job before applying for the role and the really easy steps that you can take to quickly complete this to ensure that A, you really want to apply for this job, and B, you have the best preparation around the company and the job you're applying for to put your best foot forward and give you an edge on your application when you do apply. So you've seen a leadership job advertised and you really want to put in your application. Step one is to thoroughly read the advert and any linked information such as the job description. Firstly, check the required or essential skills for the job. Does your experience and skills match up? It doesn't have to be exactly right, as growth and development in the role is usually how an organisation retains talent. However, if it is asking for a leader with 20 years experience and you only have 3, I suggest you save your time and energy for a different role. If it asks for 5 years experience and you only have 3, check the other requirements, because if you have most of those, it could be worth putting some time and energy into applying for the role. If the advertisement doesn't have a job description linked and you've covered all the information that you can that's provided and you still want to know more, I would go onto the website of where the job is advertised for. I would have a quick look around, see how big they are, what type of industry it is, what the organisation's values might be, and find their careers page, if they have one. Sometimes it can provide more information than what is included on a recruitment website or a job search website. If there is no information on the job description on this website or the job search website, and I was still keen based on what I'd read about the role advertised and what I'd seen on the organisation's website, I would contact the person listed. I would do this via email and carefully construct a professional but short email requesting access to a job description or more information about the role that I had seen advertised due to my interest in the role. I would keep it short and triple check it for any grammatical or spelling errors. This is probably going directly to a recruiter, who will notice if your email has got spelling errors or is sloppy. The reason I would use email as my preferred method is that I would consider this a form of screening. So if you do phone, again, it is probably the recruiter who is going to respond to your call. And there's potential there that they could ask you additional questions that you're not quite prepared for. And if you did come across as rude or too talkative, this could potentially rule you out if the recruiter doesn't like the sound of you. I also think it can be a little bit annoying if you're ringing to ask for the job description and they have an email address there, as they then have to note down your details and then go to email and send you the job description. So I think it's more convenient. However, if you do need to call because that's the only method of communication that's provided, then assume that they're expecting this and bring your most professional self to that phone call as well. Be articulate, be friendly, but be professional and keep it short. Requesting the job description, easy, done. Step 2 is once I have a copy of that job description, I then go through it and highlight all the bits where they talk about essential or required skills. And if I already have those, I do a quick note beside them as an example of how I would show this. Now, if it is your first leadership role that you're applying for, you want to take extra care and think about those examples that may not be directly related to a particular leadership job that you have done. If it is for your first leadership job, then you'd be noting down examples of where you've shown qualities of leadership or stepped up perhaps for your leader. If the role asks for experience of leading 3 or more people, think about projects or events that you may have coordinated or facilitated in a kind of leadership role. Even if it wasn't an official title, it could be that you did put in a lot of work trying to organise that or make sure that a project team was facilitated well. Perhaps it's when you've been the contact person for escalations when your manager was away. It's just about noting down quickly those wee examples that you think of off the top of your head as you're working your way through highlighting all those essential requirements. Now, if you want more information on how you can show leadership when you're not currently in a leadership role and some good examples of actions you can take, I'll link to my video on the screen about how to get a leadership job. Now, when I go through an advert or a job description, I mentally tally how many of those essential or required skills I already have. I start with the essential requirements of the role because sometimes it includes things like specific industries that they require you to have a depth of experience in, which can rule you out before you even start. Through this exercise, you may find that there aren't very many skills or requirements that you can actually match your experience with. You will need to be realistic as you go through this task. You'll need to think about how you could show an example or experience in each of those things, particularly if you don't have direct leadership experience. This again doesn't mean that you're not suitable for the role. It just means you need to think a little bit deeper about how you can align your own experience. So, for example, if they ask for experience in building a new team, have you been part of a new team before? Could you use your experience as being part of a new team and how maybe you did help facilitate collaboration in some way, and what things you noticed that your manager did to build the new team that you could then use as examples for how you would do it? If you are going to go for a leadership role with minimal experience and the job looks like it is an entry-level kind of leadership job, you just want to be sure that you can translate some of the things that you've done or picked up into leadership. Also, it doesn't have to be job title leadership experience either, or work related. I have hired a new leader into a leadership role who was a coach for his kids' rugby team. So it's still leadership and it's still really valuable experience. So it doesn't rule you out. You just need to find a way to craft it up so that it's clear that you can show how you can translate your experience into leadership. And I go more into this in part 3, which is about the cover letter. Now, part of the purpose of this research stage is to make a decision on whether or not you think you're going to apply for this role. So make sure you're still considering this as you're moving through all of the steps. Now, step 3 is if you've gathered all the information that you can from the job advert, from the job description, and from that little look around the organisation's website, it's to do a deeper dive on the organisation itself. So go back into the website again of that organisation with a lens of, do I think I could work here? Try and work out where the role they've advertised fits into the organisation. Can you find a list of people and their job titles? Can you see a list of who reports to who, such as in an organisational chart? Perhaps in strategic documents that they've got on their website. Just have a read and have a look around and see what you can find. Now, depending on how deep you want to go or how nosy you are, you might want to do a wee search on LinkedIn for the organisation and the individuals that work there. This could give you some more insight if you do end up finding the person that's currently in the role, what their experience was that built them into getting that particular job. I wouldn't read too much into this because it could be that they're looking for somebody completely different. It could be that they want the role to go into a completely different direction. So it would just be good background information if you're interested. I would then do a bit of a Google search on the organisation itself. It can be useful to see if there's any other news items that have come out about the organisation, if there's reviews, if it's a customer-based organisation, because if after step 3 you find out there's a whole lot of scandalous news items about the company that you're thinking about applying for a job for, you want to know all of that before you go into that. That way, if you choose not to take it any further, it's a success because you've found out all of this stuff before you've wasted time putting together a whole application, a CV, cover letter, and then potentially going through the interview process. So the research is really important. Now, just quickly for those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. My name's Nikki. I've been in leadership for over 17 years and have built my career to leading leaders. I've also done a lot of interviews of potential leaders. Now, if you're getting value from this video, I would very much appreciate if you could like it, if you could subscribe to my channel, and also give me a comment on what it is that you'd like to hear a video about next. Thank you. It really helps me out a lot. Step 4, for those of you who have decided that the company looks great, the job description looks really good, there's experience there that you think you can match up with, make some additional notes now on the organisation and some of the research that you've done when you did your Google search and when you dug a bit deeper on the organisation. Things that really stood out to you that you think could be A, of interest for you if you got an interview, and B, good for the interviewer to know that you noticed when you do get to that stage. These could be things like you've worked in a similar industry in the past, there's some technological changes that are happening in the organisation that are really going to move them forward, showing they're really innovative. Anything that you think you could use as a statement in your cover letter, as a highlight of something you noticed and why you applied, or potentially in your interview. Step 5 of the research stage is to do some salary benchmarking. You might not need to invest a huge amount of time here if they've already listed the salary range in the advertisement. In that case, you might want to skip to my video on negotiating your salary, linked here, so you're ready when that time comes and things get serious. However, you do just want to do a little bit of a salary check here in terms of where you think you might sit for your range of experience, location, and what could be offered. You can use tools such as Glassdoor, PayScale, or LinkedIn. If the salary isn't advertised, you will have to do a little bit of hustle here to work this out. As if salary is an important factor for you, you need to make sure you're not wasting your time before you go through the whole process of applying for the job. You also need to consider what you're going to be offering them. Armed with your research, assess your own value within the context of the role and the company. Consider factors such as your experience, your skills, your qualifications, and what it is about you that could give you the wee edge over your competition. Knowing your worth in terms of the salary that you think you could get is really good at building your confidence when it does come to the negotiation stage too. If you are new into the field that they're recruiting for and you're a new leader as well, you may not have much leverage in this space, but it is always good to know where you could be sitting before you go through the process. If your research shows that the potential salary range is within your expectations, Step 6 is to move into the application stage, your CV, which is part 2 in this video series and linked here on the screen. So thanks for watching and see you in part 2.